Good morning, everybody. I'm Lexi of Soul Solutions Energy Work. Today I just want to share an experience with you that I went through with a friend the other day and see whether or not anybody resonates with it a little bit. So my friend is extremely empathetic. He's just now starting to open up to the spiritual life, and I have been alongside him as a guide, trying to help him navigate the waters of what spirit guides are, how to talk to them, and all that other stuff. So the other night we were talking, and I was explaining to him my past life experiences that I know about. I was a nurse in World War I. I had a housewife life in there too, and so I was explaining those ones to him. Just kind of the details I knew, how I came to know them, how they affected my life today. And while we were talking, he suddenly said, "I feel something from you. It feels like pain from your past lives. But it's just out of reach. Like my fingertips can grasp it, but I can't see details. I don't know anything about it." And I was like, "Hey, learning opportunity, right? This is perfect." So I told him, "Okay, close your eyes and take a deep breath and ask it to become clearer. Ask it, invite it into your minds. Ask it to come closer, become clearer, see the details, feel the edges of it. Open up your minds and ask it to come forward." And it did. So I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. We're on the phone together. And suddenly I hear him, barely able to speak, say, "You couldn't save them. You couldn't save them." To which I told him I know. And he just stayed in that feeling, in that pain for a second, and finally he's like, "I feel like I'm drowning, I can't do this." And so I was like, "It's okay, we'll get you out of it." And I called upon his spirit guide, and me and his one spirit guide, we reached out and we pulled him out from underneath that giant pile of energy he was currently sitting under. And he could breathe again, and we were talking, and he's like, "I don't know if I want to do this. It's so much pain. I don't know if I want to feel other people's pain on top of my own." And so I told him, "It's okay. We'll learn how to control it. We'll work together." And he's like, "No, I have a knot in my chest right now." And he's like, "And I don't know if it's from you or me." So I scanned myself. I had no knots in my chest. I had a spirit sitting on my back. So like I wasn't sure if maybe that was masking it a little bit, but I told him, "No, I'm not sure it's from me, but let me scan your energy and see whether or not there's anything I can do." I've given him session after session. Me and him work together quite a lot, so I'm very familiar with his energy field. So I did. I went to his energy field, and right here, kind of wrapping around his lungs, there was just this large ball. So I started to reach in, and as I was reaching for that ball so I could wrap my hands around it and start warming it away, I started getting flashes of glaciers in my head. And as I wrapped my hands around that ball of energy in the center of his chest, light blue light started coming out of my hands, which was really weird. I would have gone with a gold if I was more in control at that moment, but light blue just started being pulled out of my hands. And all I could see was ice around me. And so, without even thinking about it, I just started channeling everything that started coming to me. Someone had fallen off of an icy cliff into ice cold water, and his soul had jumped in to save them, and their body went into shock, and their breathing slowed down. They couldn't move their arms, they couldn't swim. It was a near-death experience. They didn't die in this moment, I know that. But this trauma, this experience, this near-death experience that his soul had was coming back to the surface at this moment. So he started to feel that. Next thing you know, as I'm explaining the situation to him, he's like, I can't breathe again. I feel like I'm drowning." So that yanked me out of the experience that I was in the middle of. And me and Alice and Archangel Samuel and Archangel Gabriel all reached in and started sending pulses of golden light through his body, a very warming energy. I always use gold for repairs, for warming, for easing away things. Gold is just a really good light color for that. So we started sending pulses of gold through his body to melt the ice, because by this point the ice had not just woven through his lungs, but it had started weaving down through his stomach, started weaving down through his arms, so we needed to completely melt his entire energy system as this trauma was taking over. So we started sending the gold through. I kept talking him through it. I kept asking him, okay, where do you feel it now? At one point, I started feeling my throat start to seal with ice, and so I asked him, okay, is it in your throat now? He's like, yes, it is. And so I focused my hands on my throat, on his throat, and started sending the gold warming light through to melt that ice that was moving up. And he told me, I feel like I'm going to cough up water. And I was like, well, the ice is melting and you nearly drowned, so, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the feeling you have. And seconds later, he started coughing as I started getting the ice to slide down his throat, finally going back to where it'll melt with everything else. And he started coughing up what he felt like was water. And so we finally got through his system, and we did a lot of warming. I left Gabriel and Samuel to continue warming his body for the next 24 hours, just because I didn't want there to be a situation where we didn't fully get it all and it started blossoming again and I wasn't able to get to him at the time. So we worked together on making sure all that trauma was thought out. And what comes of that is now he is aware of that situation. He is aware that that is not a current moment that he is living in. He is aware that in his lifetime he has never almost drowned in an icy, cold grave. So now that he knows that little introduction into that past life, he can start to see where those little fears may have affected him in this life. And he can start to release those, knowing that those are no longer serving him. Those fears were great when it was to protect himself from that trauma that he lived through. But in this life, it's probably not going to matter anymore. So that was his experience and my experience with him. And if anybody has ever lived through I call it a past life, I don't know what I call it, sudden pop-up of your past life into your current life. If any of you have ever experienced that, go ahead and drop it in the comments and tell me how you went through it, what all happened, and how it affected you. What lessons did you learn from it? And thank you so much for watching and listening to his story. And I hope you all have a beautiful day.